Okay, hello everyone. Today I will talk about CSS processors. So first, what is a preprocessor? Sorry, a preprocessor is a scripting language that extends the functionality of CSS. It will make it more, or it will make it easier for us to be able to program or change values in our CSS. Preprocessors generate a standard CSS code that browsers can interpret. Some benefits are the modularity, variables, nesting, mixing, and mathematical operations we can find within the different preprocessors we can find on VS Code. The most powerful and the most common is the SAS preprocessor. That stands for Syntactically Awesome Style Sheets. Um, there are two file extensions with SAS: the SCSS, and the SASS. Today, later on, we'll practice using the not the SCSS, okay, which is the most used because the extension is really similar to the CSS we're all familiar with. Then we have the LEST preprocessor. It stands for Learner Style Sheets, okay, and LEST uses the .lest extension. And finally, the stylus. The stylus is the STYL X5 extension. To use these preprocessors, we can find the installation methods in the internet. Today, I would like to talk a little bit more about SAS, which is the most used, and I would like to share some interesting and cool features we can use with SAS in our codes. Okay, so let's install SAS. We come to our extensions in VS Code, and we write live SAS. And we install this extension. Now, let's set this up. Let's create in this folder. I will create a HTML. Let's say an index HTML. We'll create basic, and here. Now we will create a main, but we will use this extension Super CSS. We'll create it, and here we can see the console, and it will generate a main CSS and with our main super CSS. Now we can link this. And now, look, if I edit something on my super CSS, for example, the body, I can use the usual CSS rules I have. The same rules I apply on my main CSS, I can apply here. For example, I can change my background color. I can say black. And if I save it, you can see that my main CSS will display the same change, okay? And it will be applied on my index HTML. So if I use my OpenLive Saver, it will be black. Something really cool about SAS is that we can work with variables. I know in CSS you can work with variables using this method, using the root. I can assign, for example, a primary color, colors, like this, and I can say black. That's gonna be my primary color. And instead of saying black, I can say var and use my primary color, and it will be displayed on my lifesaver. But it was introduced into CSS some years ago, but SAS has applied this long before CSS. And something cool about it, it assigned the actual value to our CSS. You will see what I mean? So to use the variables, I will, instead of use this, I will assign $, and instead of this, I will say $primary color. And look, I have my variable, and I have applied my variable to my body content. But if I change into my CSS, you will see that I have only one element selected, and the actual value is here. I'm not using a variable within my CSS, but it is on my SAS. And let's see here, it's also applied. Okay, let's talk now about maps. Maps, if you're familiar with array from JavaScript, you will get really easy with maps. So we're basically going to create an array. I will create the name of my variables. I will say font weights. Let's make some weights. And then create my array. I will have 3 elements. regular 400. I have my medium. It's gonna be gonna have a value of 500, and my bold is gonna have a 700. Perfect. And now I will apply this. I will add some text to my, let's say 15. So now we save it, and here I can use my map here with the font weight. I'll say map get, and on my map variable, I will select my variable and then the key to my array. Let's say bold, for example. And as you can see, my text is bold within my page. Now let's talk about partials. So partial is a file that we name with a underscore, and this underscore of our file is going to tell to SAS that we do not need to create a CSS file. So it will just ignore that and will work as a file where we can import data from. So let's see an example. I can create a partial for my variables.supercss, and it will not create a CSS file. And I could get my variable out here, and I will use it here. Perfect. I can create more variables. I can say secondary color, and I will assign it to black. Perfect. So now we have two variables. I can come to my main, and I can import my data. So I can say import, and I can name here my variables.css. Perfect. And now it will just go up here, and it will it will work with my variables I already had. So let's say I want to change the color of my background. So I want to use the secondary color, and it will change. This is something really cool. If you, again, know about JavaScript or any other programming language, you're familiar with functions. And we can also use functions with SAS. So, for example, let's create a function to make it more cleaner to our map get. Let's create a function to get the weight. We'll assign a variable here to the weight name, and then we will return the value from the map get. We have our font weights and the weights name. So here now, instead of having my font weight, my function, it was weight, sorry, my function and pass my weight. So again, you will see, oh, sorry, I will change it to my primary color, and you will see it's default applied. If I just change here to my regular, I can work with it. Perfect. Let's talk about mixing. I have added another text to my HTML. I have text 1, text 2, and here I have my CSS. Look, I have the same values for my text 1 and text 2, and this mixing, it's almost like a function, but I can assign a variable name as well. Like say this is going to be variable, and I can assign here the same values. And look, if I get rid of this, I will see that my second text is not labeled like my first one. And I just need to add include, and then I am a variable text, and it will be displayed the same. And I can even change some things. For example, I can font size trim, and will still change it. Even though I'm applying my maximum, I'm also capable of changing. That's really great. I can even pass an argument here. So for example, I can say aligning. Okay. And I can use here my aligning. I need my $sign, and I can pass here my aligning variable. I can save it. And here, if I wanna pass the argument here, left. Let's just say left. Go to left. If I wanna say right, it will be on the right. So editing my argument will change my aligning of my text aligned. So this can also be really useful when you're editing a CSS. And that's it. If you want to look at the documentation, you can always go to the SAS website there. You will find all of the rules, versions, variables, and things you can apply here. And it's really great.